Hey, Joyful Journeyer, Anita Adams here, your host. And today I'm thrilled to introduce you to Maryanna Gabriel, the author of several books, including her most recent creation, Walking the Camino on Earth as Is. The unexpected death of her mother in 2017 is the spark that ignited the desire, or perhaps the need, to set upon a solo 800-kilometer pilgrimage through Europe. Today, we're going to talk about that journey, the challenges faced in doing such a trek, and the lessons learned along the way. Maryanna, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here today. How are you? And welcome.
Hi, Anita. It's an honor to be here. I'm really enjoying all your podcasts. I've been listening.
Wonderful. That's music to my ears. I'm so happy to hear that. And I am loving your book, Walking the Camino. It's beautifully told. You have a gift in painting the pictures in your head, and it's poetic. It's so beautifully written. So thank you for the gift of being able to read your book and then to have you here on the show. And the Camino is something that I know I am going to do one day, and I have actually done parts of it, just little, because I've lived in France, for a year, so we did little pockets of the Camino. But I want to do it the way you did it, and setting out to go for this long trek, to really connect with myself and all that. And I'm so interested in your journey, and I can't wait to dive in and hear more. But first, would you mind giving us a little brief history of the Camino and its significance? Because I know there's a lot of people listening who I'm sure know about the Camino, and there's probably some that are not familiar. So just give us a brief overview of what the Camino is and its significance.
Well, it's hard to be brief about centuries of history. So it more or less commenced in the 900s, Anno AD. People came from all over, started to come from all over Europe when they found out that Saint James was there. So that Saint James is the Apostle James, and he is the brother to John, and that's the John who wrote the book of Revelation. So they're part of the chosen 12. And James ended up in Spain. And when the Catholic Church claimed the bones, Santiago means Saint James. Sant is Saint, and Iago is James. It was declared that if you made the pilgrimage to Santiago, all your sins would be forgiven. And so at the time, many people were seeking too and dedicated. So treks were made from Ireland, England, Sweden, Italy, through France, all parts of Europe, and down below from Portugal and across northern Spain. So there's just like all these threads of people making the trek through the ages: kings, queens, saints, sinners, knights, commoners, nuns, monks. Everybody was coming and making this dangerous journey. And then when the plague hit, of course, things died off a bit, and then it had a resurgence again. And then it kind of died off, and a really wonderful man by the name of Dr. Elias San Pedro around the 1980s began to paint the yellow arrows and get the towns all, come on, you guys, let's get this together. And the route slowly has become revived.
It's really neat. I noticed when I was in Europe, the shell, which is supposed to symbolize something with the Camino. What is the shell?
So the shell does symbolize St. James, because it is said that when he landed in his boat on the shores of Spain, that he used the scallop shell to drink water from, that it was his cup. So it
Oh,
becomes a symbol. When you're carrying the shell, it indicates that you're on the pilgrimage.
okay. That's beautiful. Right, very good. Thank you. Thank you for that brief history. So well over 1,000 years it started and has continued to grow. Really cool. So what is it about the Camino that called to you?
Well, you know how you've just said yourself, you're feeling it. Like
Mm,
I didn't, I don't know if I chose it or it chose me.
mm.
Because like who would want to go through all that discomfort and spend all the money and take all that time and put yourself right out there, and maybe you can't make it, maybe you're going to fall on your face, and all this unknown, and it just wouldn't stop coming across my mind, coming across my mind, coming across
Mm.
my mind, and I'm aware enough to know that when I'm getting repeated inclinations, that means my soul is pushing me in that direction. And you were talking about niggles in one of your podcasts. I was seriously niggled. So I I thought, well, if I really am going to do this, I better do the practical thing and get this reservation that it's a little bit tricky in the Pyrenees towards the beginning of the journey. If you remember seeing the movie The Way, I don't know if you saw that with,
A long time ago, yeah, I did.
yeah, it's serious mountain country. Like you have
Yeah.
to not just flake off. It can be, the weather can change at any time. And anyway, in that movie, somebody dies, and people do die.
Mm.
And so I thought, well, it's a difficult reservation, and I probably won't get it. So
Mm.
I'll just send it off. And so it went off, and I didn't get a reply for a long, long time. And I thought, well, maybe I spelt it wrong or something. And I sent it off again, and weeks went by, and I thought, well, there you go. I'm not meant to go for sure. And then a reply came, and you have a reservation, and please send 14 euros or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And I just like started doing this happy dance in the living room, like, I'm going.
Well, I'm glad it was a happy dance and not like, oh my God, what have I done? Or did that come later?
Yeah, there was a lot of oh my God as I worried about things, but I was really excited.
Great.
So that was a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you listen to the niggles or listen to your soul voice that and that you said that you've learned to really pay attention, and when things come across your mind that, if they repeat themselves, this is a sign to you. And we need to learn to lean in and listen to those more often. So well done you for, because it takes courage, right? To 800 kilometers, that's huge. To do that by yourself in a foreign country. Wow, it's impressive. And how long did it take you to do that journey?
Well, I decided to take my time. So a lot of people do it in a month. But I wanted to really soak in the history. And
Mm,
so I did it in 7 weeks. And that
brilliant.
still felt fast. I
Yeah,
still used so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how many kilometers roughly would you be doing a day? Because I can't do the math.
I actually did do the math recently. So that is an average of 16 kilometers a day. But there
And
were
that's
days,
considered slow? That's significant. 16 kilometers a day
yeah,
hiking in the
yeah,
you're going to the Pyrenees, and wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. I think that's really cool. Wow. Wow. Okay, so what was the biggest challenge for you to do this trek?
Well, I would say my knees were a challenge.
Ah, okay.
They were really cranky. My body is very cranky. My bones are very cranky. They don't seem to want to line up well. And I was having trouble with my knees, and I actually thought I couldn't do it. But it turned out that I may have worn them out a bit, but
Mm.
they were reliable. Um, yeah. And my own head, I would say,
Yeah.
my own head wrestling with what came up in my head is the challenge as well.
While you were on the walk. Yeah.
Before my fears,
Okay.
uh, I actually felt like before I went, I faced my death. Like I was preparing as though I wasn't going to come back.
Oh, that's interesting. Elaborate on that a little bit. Was there fear that you would actually die, or was it a death of a part of you that you were allowing to you were letting go of or preparing for?
Well, I know that people do die on the Camino,
Mm,
and you, it's not a walk in the park. This is
no.
not a walk in the park. You have to really be prepared.
Yeah.
There's some serious things to encounter. The heat is unbelievable. So I went in the end of August thinking, oh, well, the heat's in August. I'm being terribly clever, but it is very intense.
Hmm.
And having water and having food. So there are periods of it, parts of it where that's not available.
And you have to map this all out and be self-reliant. You need to be able to make sure you can get from one place to the next. That's a lot of responsibility. I'm just reflecting right now. My husband and I did this epic cycling trip this past summer, and he it was we were in Eastern Europe, and he mapped it all out, and I just came along for the journey, which was wonderful. And now I realize how much effort that he put into it, and the responsibility. I recognize the responsibility, how it landed on his shoulders to make sure that the distances were manageable, that we can get from one place to the next, that there were accommodations to be had. And so I'm hearing you do this trip and thinking, wow, like not only are you taking on the physical responsibility of moving your body and getting it to, these different places every single day, but just the mental and emotional um, stamina. That's the word I'm looking for, of putting that all together, and the responsibility that must weigh on you. And then to accomplish that must feel incredibly empowering.
It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. I just you're for those of you who are just listening, she just lit up, like just beautiful, beautiful smile. I can tell that you just feel so good about what you've accomplished. And that's it's empowering. It's beautiful to witness. Well done.
Some people do it on bicycle, and there
Yeah.
are variations in the route if you wish to do that. And there's the odd person that does it on horseback.
Oh yeah, I was wondering, I've read that in your book, and I'm like, horseback, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's
Oh, it's really, really cool. All right. So I understand that many people who do the Camino experience a real deep connection to God or the universe, and that they have strange or somewhat mystical encounters. Did you experience anything like this?
I did. And I just want to preface my experience with saying some people go and they're disappointed and it
Mm.
happens and they don't really know what all the kerfuffle is about.
Disappointed
And
because they didn't have that mystical experience that they were hoping? Is that
yeah, nothing remarkable happened.
nothing remarkable happened?
What's everybody going on about? So I have a deep spiritual connection in my belief system. It's not I'm religious. I'm not
Mhm.
religious per se, but I guess I was asking for answers. I had things that were needing to be resolved within myself that had been bothering me, weights I felt that I needed to lose. And so I was going with that question. And I felt also that my understanding is that it's on a ley line, it's on a magnetic ley line.
A
And
ley line?
yeah,
I don't know what that is.
there's parts of the planet where the augmentation of the energy is a little more intense,
Okay.
right? Sacred space, sacred places
Yeah.
where there seems to be a thinner veil between
Oh,
the worlds.
okay.
And it is also under the Milky Way. Santiago de Compostela. Compostela means comp is field, stella is stars.
Mm,
So you're going under a field of stars.
beautiful. Yeah.
And also the fact that so many people have walked it with the deepest of intention on that walk. It's not lightly taken, and this is no picnic. So um was aware of that, and I was wondering how spirit would speak to me.
Mm,
And I felt that amazing things happened and miraculous things happened. And especially through part of the journey is who you meet and the synchronicities you experience and the conversations. There's no time for idle chit chat, although there's lots of that. But when you're traveling, there seems to be more openness, and people doing the walk, you're worn down physically, you're more open. And so those conversations were wonderful
mm,
and synergistic, And I write about some of those experiences in the book. Like, so if I were just to say, oh, this happened and this happened, it would sound, I think, oh, you could just go, oh, that's nothing. But I know it's something. So sort of speaking of what was sacred to me, I feel like diminishes it somehow. So you need to see the context
I understand.
in the book.
Okay, so read the book. So, so read the book. Awesome. I find okay, you said a couple things that I want to just pull on a little bit more. So the fact that some people walk and don't have any remarkable experience. Would you suggest that perhaps that happens because that individual maybe did not set out with an intention? Like you set out with an intention to hear something from your to find some answers, to be spoken to, and you were open to that. So I wonder if you need to have an intention, or if that having an intention helps you to have that experience.
Possibly, but I think it's more that awareness, like not discounting things. Like,
Mm,
and
right.
we all have experiences. We're all part of this same sea.
Mm,
So if you're given something and you just go, well, that didn't really happen, or I must have just imagined it, then of course it just gets sloughed to the side.
got it. Yeah.
So I think it's just registering it, paying attention, and being open to it.
Yeah, I think that's really key, paying attention and being open to it. And you said earlier that you were wondering how spirit would connect with you. And so there's a
Yeah,
sense of curiosity there. And I think that's a beautiful way to go into the world, into every single day, to be in that state of curiosity. And how is spirit going to connect with me today? I think
right.
thank you for reminding me of that. I used to ask that all the time, and I haven't
Yeah,
for a while. And I need to get back into that state of wonder and curiosity with just simply waking up out of bed and looking out the window. How is spirit going to speak with me today? Um,
yeah. Like we're all on a journey from birth to death, aren't we?
mm,
And so, like for example, in England or here or everywhere, you can walk a labyrinth and it becomes a metaphor for your life. From same idea. So
yeah,
I was working on the Camino as a metaphor for my life, and what would happen to me would be a metaphor for lessons I needed to learn or things I needed to be aware of. And I felt that that was true.
yeah. What was the biggest lesson that you walked away with then from this experience? Or is there
Um,
one? Probably
yeah,
many.
I shed a lot of inner weights.
Like inner weight baggage, is that what you mean? Like things that
Yeah,
weigh heavy on you? Okay,
yeah,
good.
just living so simply,
Say that
and
again, sorry.
one is living so simply and in with nature, rising with the rhythm of dawn, and the starlight and the dust and the earth, and watching one's feet and feeling one's body and trying to take care of thirst and hunger and all this kind of thing. And things get very simple, and one's not distracted so much. So I really feel I sloughed off a lot, and that I came into a more authentic part of my being, which is seeing myself whole and healed and loved, beloved. So a lot of my life I've had, I think when people are in pain, sometimes they don't want to acknowledge it and they displace it onto somebody else, right? That we see that all the time. And so being a sensitive person, I feel I took on things that weren't mine to take on. So that's much clearer now. And I think I've mastered that.
Great.
But I felt like think, oh, the Camino is going to be a solution to my problems in my life. Actually, I feel like it turned the volume up when I came home. I was even more challenged, like, okay, are you sure you really learned this? Are you sure you really learned this? Okay,
Oh, interesting.
work this up a bit more. Are you sure you really learned this?
Thank you, God, universe. Yes, I've learned.
All right already.
Oh, I get that. That's really great. And so you have learned. You feel like you are living into the woman you walked away being from the Camino?
Well, I'm going to surprise you and do a little turn off the track we're doing here and say I felt like I needed more validation, and I went for something called a naughty reading. Have you ever heard of
No,
that?
no, I haven't. A naughty reading?
Oh my God, it's so amazing. NADI, naughty.
Okay. NADI, naughty reading. Okay, tell us more. What is a naughty reading?
So it's Sanskrit for conduit or channel.
Okay.
And this is amazing, Anita.
Yeah.
So 4,000 or so years ago, give or take 1,000 years, because nobody really knows because it's so old, some Maharishis in India, Maha meaning great, and Rishi meaning saint. So great saints knew that in the future the people would be in trouble and would need help. And so they channeled readings for individual souls who weren't born yet and wrote them on leaves. And these leaves are considered holy, and they've been maintained and cared for through time, and they only go up to 2050, and they want to be found. They want to be found because
The souls want to be found?
the leaves want to be found by the people they're meant for.
Okay. Wow.
And so you think, oh, well, how do you know it's your leaf?
Yeah.
So the information, and I thought, when I heard of it, I thought, oh, I would just get ripped off,
Yeah.
and how do you know it's yours? But I found a source, the Naughty Palm Leaf Reading Institute, where I felt I could trust
Yeah.
through varying means. And I thought, well, maybe they're not going to find my leaf because not everybody has a leaf.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the leaves were destroyed when the British came into India, and they were all in a palace, and then they were separated to be protected from vandalism and burning, and they were
Yeah.
taken away, and so they hid them all over the place. This was like this, and so they categorize they find your leaf by your thumbprint.
Wow.
So that there's 108 types of thumbprints, and so they take my thumbprint, and they know where to look.
Yeah.
And I waited I think about 2 months for them to find it, and they said, we found your bundle. it's in a bundle of leaves, and then so then they ask you questions, yes or no questions, until there's more yeses than nos. And they knew things about me that are not on the internet, that nobody could have ever known,
Oh, wow.
for the leaf to be identified. And it took an hour and 15 minutes to go find the leaf, as them asking me yes or no questions. And in the bundle is like people who are like me. It was all like, oh, that sounds like me, but it's not me. Like
Mm,
it's like a type together. And when they found my leaf, it was just stunning.
mm,
The questions they asked. And there was no doubt in my mind that it was my leaf.
mm.
So the leaf was again a validation that I guess what I feel like I'm getting older. Are there things I need to do in my life
Right.
to
Yeah.
improve? Am I on the right path? Am I letting down the people I love? And it's like, no worries. It's all good.
Right. These are big life questions, and I think a lot of us, and I think particularly perhaps when we get to a certain age too, we come to a point where we're like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
How am I serving?
yeah,
How am I showing up in the world to make a difference? I
yeah,
know I want to make a difference in the world, and I know you do too. That's the impression that I get from you. So to ask those kind of questions, I think are good to ask, and looking for ways to find those answers and that truth that you have. So I find this interesting. I've never heard of Nadi readings before, and I'm gonna explore that a little. Maybe I can find somebody to interview on my show to deepen that understanding of how that works. But that's really cool. So you walked away from that reading feeling validated, and it supported some of the work you were doing on the Camino. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah. Like you can do whatever you want to me now that I'm unshakable.
I love that. Yeah, unshakable. Okay, do you think that that comes from a deep love and acceptance of who you are?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that might be why a lot of us are being born,
Yeah,
to know that
yeah,
beauty we are,
yeah,
in spite of maybe what might be reflected back to us by
yeah.
souls we trust.
Hmm. I talk a lot about getting into nature and going for walks, connecting with your environment, connecting with your natural world, because it's there that I found that kind of love. It's first a love for my natural environment, but it seeped over into a love for self, a love for what is. And yeah, I think I can see why the Camino can be powerful that way, because it's a daily immersion. Um, and I have a daily immersion practice just in my forest in my backyard sort of thing. And it has helped me step into that space of deep love for self. And I feel conversations like this are really important because we need to have that deep love for ourselves. We need to inspire and encourage others to find that deep love for self, because when we have that, that's where change happens. That's where we can turn this world into, you know, being a loving place, you know. And it starts with love for self, doesn't it?
It
You
sure
can't
does.
yeah, you can't be the love for anything unless you've got that deep love for self. So thank you for sharing all that. It's really really interesting. Maybe that kind of segues into the question I have about why you may think that the Camino has become so popular. Is there something missing in people's lives today that the Camino is fulfilling?
I think possibly people may say to themselves they're going because it's like a bucket list experience, or
Mm,
it's interesting historical walk, and they maybe can't really articulate even to themselves why they're going.
mm, They're
So there
still
may
they're
be,
listening to the niggles, like you said, that call, that feeling that they should be there.
yeah, and then all the unexpected kind of treasures might emerge that they didn't
Mm,
expect or weren't even looking for, but people who were there felt like are really sincere.
yeah.
And there's a lot of people there. Walking is such a wonderful way to release emotion, and
Hmm.
there's maybe a life event that spurred it.
Right. Yeah, I have heard that the popularity of the Camino has just skyrocketed in the last little while. So I was just kind of curious as why that may be. Perhaps it's, I wonder if the pandemic has anything to do with it, just that sense of disconnect and maybe that need to find connection again. And and even though it's a solo walk, there's still connection that happens. So,
I would say that it was exponentially growing before the pandemic, and
okay.
then possibly the pandemic was a lot of pent up kind of yearning for maybe possibly things that they wanted, goals to achieve. Also, the pandemic was just so strange. It just took us all to the edge anyways. So I
Yeah.
do know that right now, 2,000 people a day are checking into Santiago.
2,000 people a day?
And I also know that somebody who is reliable said for almost 4,000 checked in the day she was there this month.
Wow. Okay. And it's so this month is October. October is a busy time for people to go. Okay. Interesting. That's really, really wow, 4,000 people. That's crazy. All right. If someone listening to the show is considering or thinking about doing the Camino, what words of wisdom would you have to offer them before they head off?
I would say just go,
Just do it.
go.
Awesome. You go and experience. I guess I imagine everybody's experience is very unique. So yeah, very cool. Mariana, how would people find your book? What's the best way for them to find Walking the Camino on Earth as it is?
It's in every bookstore practically.
Awesome.
Whatever
Very
channel you get your books from, you should be able to pick it up.
brilliant. Okay. And if people wanted to connect with you directly, is there a way they can do that? Do you have a website that we can send them to?
Thank you. It's MaryannaGabriel.ca. If you wish to connect with me, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Brilliant. All right. We'll make sure we'll add that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Mariana, for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom and your stories and inspiring me to. I'm going to do it one day. I feel that call is going to happen. And I'm really grateful for your time with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anita. It's a
Yeah.
pleasure.
And Joyful Journeyer, if you know anybody who is thinking about doing the Camino, share this episode. Tell them about walking the Camino on Earth as is, and yeah, spread the love. All right. Thanks for tuning in, Joyful Journeyer, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.